we go. Hi, everyone. This is another episode of Buffalo Brothers.
Hello, John.
Hello. How you doing, Meatball George?
Good.
We are going to be going over just a little bit of thoughts after day 2 of the NFL draft. All right, George, you got any thoughts you want to start us off with?
Well, yeah. First of all, I know we didn't get Sauce Gardner. We weren't going to get him, but I saw him after he got drafted, and he had a nice necklace with a big bottle of sauce on it. Did you see that?
I did. He has some serious bling going on. Yeah,
I gotta say, he seems like a heck of a nice young man, and I wish him well. I wish we had him, but I'm very pleased with who the Bills did pick in the first round. They got a cornerback.
They did.
It certainly takes care of our biggest need, and Kaiir Elam, and he was very, very excited. I don't know if you saw the call that he got from the Bills in their draft room. Did you see that? When he kept telling him, put the playbook on the plane, put the playbook on the plane.
No, I did not see that. I'll have to look for it. Okay.
Yeah, they put him on the phone with the owner.
They did. Okay.
And I don't think he knew who he was talking to. And he was like, yeah, just put the playbook on the plane. I'll study a playbook. And the owner, he's like, oh, would you like to talk to the coach? yeah, I'll talk to the coach. And they
that's great.
So I don't think he knew that who he was on the phone.
Yeah, you know, where he is, there's probably a lot of noise. He probably couldn't hear much.
Yeah,
especially at the beginning of the conversation.
He was emotional and excited. And you know, I wish him the best. I think he's going to do a good job. You know, a lot of people were trying to speculate that he won't be the starter because that's not how the Bills do things. And you know, I don't know. That could very well be. He may not be the starter in week 1, but he might be by week 2. We'll see when Trey comes back and what they're thinking. And I saw Bean say that he thought Trey may be ready for the first week.
He did.
Yeah.
He did seem to indicate that they seem to feel that there's a chance that he could be ready for week 1. I was a little surprised by that, but you know, we haven't heard how his progress is going. We haven't heard anything. He might be getting great.
We're not hearing nothing, right?
He might be all on top of, you know, what kind of exercises he's doing, and the trainers might be telling him, giving him an estimated time. Of course, we don't want any setbacks.
No.
So, you know, hopefully he's just doing what he's supposed to be doing at this time and what he's comfortable with. So,
you know, and there were still quite a few cornerbacks available when the Bills picked, and they picked Elam. And so Bean kept talking about how much that he impressed them when he was
there. Yeah.
When he was there, and he showed that he was just interested in learning, and he just wants to come and play, and he was excited. I mean, how could you not want a guy like that?
Yes. Yeah, I hear you. I remember him saying that when they asked him if he had any questions, he asked things like, you know, what did Trey White do to make himself the player he is? What did you see from my game that you think I should work on, and what do you think? So, if that indicates the kind of professionalism he has and a desire to perform and to perform well and to improve, that's fantastic. You have a great athlete who wants to get better. That's fantastic.
There was some criticism of his tackling ability by some of the so-called experts, and some of the other ones said that's just a bunch of nonsense. But who knows? You know, if it might be something that they can train him on if they think it's a problem. But quite frankly, I want him to break up the pass or get an interception more than I'm worried about him making the tackle.
You remember Deion Sanders?
Yeah.
Nobody ever accused him of wanting to make a tackle. That was not a thing.
Yeah.
So I know that this team prides itself on being good tacklers, and so that's important to them, and that's fine. So, but he'll learn if he has a weakness in that area or on certain types of tackles, he'll work with them. He'll get plenty of reps. Now he's a professional.
Yeah, and then they get to the second round, and it's moving down the list, and wide receivers are starting to fall.
They are going off the board fast.
They're going off the board. But now the Bills are not making a move to move up any spaces like they did in the first round to get their cornerback. So I'm thinking they were expecting their guy to fall to them. And it kept coming down and coming down. All of a sudden, teams are jumping over the Bills.
Yes.
And there was a trade between New England and Kansas City that still kind of makes my head scratch. And Kansas City traded the spot with New England. So New England came up and they took a wide receiver that I had heard that the Bills were interested in.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if Kansas City and New England had some kind of a cooperation there to both hurt the Bills.
All right. So Buffalo Brothers is first on this, I think. Conspiracy theory number one.
Yes.
New England and Kansas City colluding to get a jump on the Bills.
Yes. And when that happened, and I believe that Kansas City didn't they have another pick ahead of the Bills?
They did,
and they picked the other wide receiver. And all of a sudden there really wasn't anybody left, I think, that was still in Bean's second round grade of wide receivers.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that caught the Bills. They kind of zoinked the Bills and got around them, scooped up the wide receivers that the Bills were interested in, so that neither New England nor Kansas City had to worry about defending against these guys. And it left the Bills scratching their head. Okay, well, all we got left are third round grades on our board.
On our board.
And here we are now late in the second round. And what are we going to do? And now, of course, we don't have any proof that any of this is true, but it's just speculation, but it sure seemed fishy to me. And then we saw the Bills trade back a couple of times.
Right.
Why they either figured out what they were going to do or got to a position where they were not picking too high in the second round for somebody that maybe they had graded as a third round pick. And they took a running back.
Yeah, they ended up picking about 2 spots before the end of the second round.
Yeah.
So
I think it was the second last spot in the second round.
In that case, if you end up picking someone that you have a high third round grade on, you could be pretty comfortable with that, because that's going to happen. They may not have had 60 first and second round grades, and so the guys that were available to them that they liked, there were either enough of them that they felt they could go back twice and still get somebody that they still liked.
Now, they ended up taking James Cook.
They did.
Spiller was still on the board, and he was rated as a much higher player, but apparently not on that Bills board, because they just bypassed him. And I also thought they were interested in Zaire White, who was the other running back for Georgia, but they picked James Cook. And we know that his brother is Delvin Cook. So
right.
This kid is a fantastic receiver. He can run. He's not a power runner.
Not a power runner.
He can wait for an opening, and he's got some burst to get through
He's got some elusiveness.
Yeah. But I think they really drafted him for receiving.
He's got great hands. great hands, and at the college level was able to run good routes. So maybe you're right. That might have been why they evaluated him a little higher than Spiller. Also, just FYI, I think his 40-yard time in the combine was a little faster than Spiller's.
Okay.
So it's kind of a win-win, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, when you look at Singletary, who we got, who's our #1 running back, or seems to be,
right?
He had over 1,000 yards last year, but 800 was running and over 200 was receiving.
Right.
Well, Cook could get the 800 in receiving. You just don't know how they're going to use him. Or he could be that player where they're throwing short, but he's running long. You know what I mean? And he's getting a lot of yards after catch, which is something the Bills have not had in quite a while.
That's true. Yeah, I would love to see him turn into a real weapon, whether that's in passing into space and screenplays, or running the ball. I'm okay with that too. So I know you were saying that some people were thinking that Singletary will still start the year as the starter, begin the year as a starter, and that could be. This is an organization that prides itself on you play what you earn, right? You got to earn the playing time, so that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But like you said, he might still play a significant part of the offense and might actually take over as a starter.
You know, and it makes you wonder, you know, they picked up Duke Johnson, who supposedly got great hands and is a third down back for coming out of the backfield to catch.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens in training camp and exhibition games and see really who's left standing in the backfield when it's week 1.
Cook might very well be someone that they're thinking as a pass catcher. He'll get some opportunities to run, and depending on what he does with it, could get him some more opportunities. So Breece Hall had that. I don't know if you got to see after he got drafted, when he went off stage and he was talking to the reporter for the NFL Network, he declared himself as the best running back in this draft.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's fine. And he emphasized that he's a 3-down back.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
That's fine. We'll have to see how Cook develops. Is he at least, even for a while, a 3-down back that might eventually become a third down back?
Well, it makes you wonder what's going to happen with Moss now. If Singletary is going to be the rushing back, and you got 2 guys that are receiving backs, you know, is you got to have a 4th back to back up the running back. I mean, it's just and then they got a fullback too. So that's a lot of backs.
That's a lot of backs. So if you've got Singletary playing your first and second downs, well, the only thing that jumped out at me was, you remember J.D. McKissick?
Yeah.
Now,
I don't think we would have drafted a back if J.D. McKissick signed.
That might have taken the need off the board, right? That could be
what I think. Yeah.
And for him to be as proficient as J.D. McKissick, he'll have to get a little better. Like, he'll have to go out there and show some and improve a little bit. But he's got some talent, and he's got some speed, and he's got great hands. Dorsey has a real tool to work with there.
Yeah.
And that he could end up being a real weapon, even if it's in the passing game, but he could end up being a real weapon for this offense.
Right.
So, lots to look forward to for the beginning of the season. And of course, we still have another whole day, another whole draft day. Now, the Bills do not have a 4th round pick, but they do have a 5th. And I haven't seen it to be sure, but I think they have. Well, I think they've got 4 6th round picks.
Okay.
I don't know that to be a fact, but that was the impression I got while I was watching the NFL Network's.
I still think they might draft a punter later on.
fine, I don't care. Let them
Yeah.
draft a punter. If they could lock up the punter for the next 5 years or 4 years, I guess, fine. I know it's not something, hopefully we don't use punters. But you do have to have them.
Yeah,
So-
when you need them, you need a good one. And that was a problem they had this year for a few times. You know, it's like, you think about the 1991 Bills, they had their place kicker, Norwood. Nobody wants to hear about him, but during the year, so many times he missed extra points and field goals that what did you think was going to happen in a clutch situation in the Super Bowl? He only did what he does. And, you know, you can't really blame it on him. That's as good as he was. And it was unfortunate that he was in that situation.
You know,
so you need a good kicker, even a punter at every position. You need somebody you can count on in special teams, because you don't have a second chance. You can't make it up.
Right. You can't go back and replay the last 13 seconds. You can't go back and re-kick a potential game-winning kick. So you're absolutely right. It's got to be there when you need it. Every once in a while, a team will miss a PAT now, especially with it being about 15 yards down, you know, on the 50-yard line. And you just hope it doesn't really come into play as far as being significant. And you got to have, so they seem to have locked up the place kicking duties with Bass. They're very happy with him. If they do get a punter, I don't mind. I know that there are people who really hate that. I don't care. I don't mind that. Whether that's a 6th round pick or a 7th round pick, I don't care.
Or even undrafted, you know, you never know. But if
it's
there's
undrafted, that's how you normally get them. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's one that is that good, there's a guy out there that has got like a 51-yard punting average. And that's pretty good. Although the Bills, you hopefully are just punting short to get, you know, because you were able to move the ball and get a couple of first downs.
Right.
But you just never know. And then in the 3rd round, they held tight. We called it. They picked the linebacker.
Yeah.
Not who I expected. I mean, I really don't know much about Terrell Bernard unless you do.
I do not. So, well, we would have seen him play the last 2 years, but I really don't. I didn't watch any tape on him or see any particular highlights. So, listen, they liked him. I don't know if he's more of an outside or an inside guy. I don't know. He seemed to be a tackler, a good tackler.
Well, let me read you his overview that I found here. It says, undersized, sub-package nickel linebacker with special teams value on the next level. Bernard possesses elite intangibles and teams will be drawn to him because of it. He's resilient, productive, and shows a willingness to play through pain. However, Bernard lacks the desired frame and play strength and will face scrutiny surrounding his injury history. He needs space to operate and has the speed for man coverage duties as a pro. If the medicals check out, he should be a day 3 pick with a sub package value. So they picked up a linebacker who we thought they would, but probably around 3 or 4 guy, and not a I'm sorry, more like a 4th or 5th round guy. They took him in the 3rd round, and he's undersized, so I don't see him as a replacement for our middle linebacker.
No, I wouldn't think so. Not with that description, or no, not with that profile.
But with all the quarterbacks and wide receivers in the National Football American Conference now, maybe another nickel is what they're thinking. A guy that maybe could cover tight ends.
He'd be a big nickel, maybe could cover tight ends. You know how sometimes teams play a big receiver in the slot?
Yeah.
Maybe he could be asked to cover him, a big receiver in the slot. So we'll have to see that. All right. and he's a special teamer. So that might be how he makes the team, is as a special teams player, and then they'll see what he picks up and what he's able to do. He's too big to be a safety, I think.
Yeah, he's too big to be saved. It makes you wonder if there were other players available that they could have gone to, but of course, I don't want to sound critical to the Bills picking because we don't know what they know, but I'm very pleased with their first 2-round picks. And I just got a question mark on their 3rd-round pick. And after reading this overview, I still have a question. I'm like, well, what is their plan for him? A 3rd rounder, you would think, is a guy that they anticipate making the team, and whether he's playing this year or next year, plans to, you're thinking you're drafting a player.
Yeah.
And,
that's not a special teamer.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of time for that in the later rounds. And so we'll see. We'll see on that one.
Yeah, during the exhibition games or the preseason, we'll get to see him out there playing.
To me, he sounds kind of like a Milano. And last year we were very lucky. Yeah. We were very lucky on injuries, but in the past, Milano has missed a lot of games. Maybe they're thinking he could be the backup for Milano.
Maybe a guy who could play special teams, excel on them, and be your primary backup for your outside linebacker. Right. Maybe on those occasions when you do need to play 3 linebackers.
He's the one that, yeah.
Yeah. Now he may go in and then cover the tight end. The tight end stays in the block, then try to help him in passing. I'm running a situation. So we'll see.
Yeah, and could he cover a running back coming out of the backfield? Yeah,
a big nickel. That sounds like that's what they got him. That's how they're describing him there. So we don't know. We'll have to see. And of course, our coaches seem to be very good teachers.
Yeah.
Develop.
Yeah, and as far as injuries go, we've got a crew that's really good at managing these guys and keeping them healthy. And
yeah, they've been remarkable for how few injuries they've had. I know that Trey White currently is having an injury that took him out for half the year, and Milano's had some injuries, but by and large, the team has not suffered much injuries.
Right, and so that's all good stuff. And going back to our running back that they picked, Cook, did you see where he said he came out and he just fell in love with Buffalo?
No, I didn't. I haven't seen any tape on him yet.
Yeah, and that's what he said.
That's good to hear.
When he was interviewed, he absolutely fell in love with the culture in Buffalo, and he felt like he was very happy because he felt like he was going to go to a team that was going to allow him to be himself and not try to change his game or do something different, tell him all the things he should do instead of what he does do. And so he was
capitalizing on what he does well. Put him in a position to make plays. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so he was really, really, he felt he said it compared to his coach at Georgia. And so he thought it was going to be like just an easy transition to move on to the Bills, and they were going to treat him the same way he got treated in college. And he was really excited about it. I mean, emotionally excited. He was very happy. So I'm happy for all those that got picked. And I certainly hope or wish Terrell, the new linebacker, all the best. And I hope it all works out. And we'll see what he brings to the table. Training camp is not too far away.
And
there's no rush on bringing in a new starting a new linebacker. So
they got time to learn. A Milano who played a lot of safety in college and turned him into a outside linebacker that they love. So who knows what they could do with this guy?
Right.
I'm sure they saw traits that they really liked about him.
Right, and it's going to fit whatever Leslie Frazier's scheme is. And,
right. Hopefully, that's the plan.
And let's face it. When I grew up, you wanted headbangers as your linebackers. Dick Buck is these kind of guys. And but with the passing game now the dominant part of the NFL, and you only got to face like a Jonathan Taylor or a Derrick Henry maybe once a year if you're lucky.
Right.
You may not have to be built for that.
No, that I hear you. That's the NFL is very different than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And quite to some degree, it's different than it was 10 years ago. And the pass is really everything now.
Did you see where Minnesota had a pick and Ed Marinaro came out?
Yeah.
It was 50 years since he was picked.
Yeah.
I remember that draft. I remember when they picked Ed Marinaro. And I'm like,
yeah, he was one of the highlights of the draft. His little speech. Yeah. The lady comes out, is telling him, yeah, call the name. Talk to you. She's showing him, you got the card in your hand. That was fantastic.
Yeah. So, and it was great to see Stevie Johnson there for the Bills.
It was. Haven't seen him in quite a while.
Yeah, he still looked like he was in shape to play.
He did.
Yeah. So.
Yes, he did.
Yep. And I have no problem bringing some of these old guys that can come in, and hopefully they do come in and they talk to the new players or the existing players and share whatever they can with them. Right. Could you imagine like Gregory Rousseau getting a nice lesson from Bruce Smith or something like that? Yeah. He's got Von Miller on one ear and maybe Bruce Smith on the other. And Thurman Thomas coming in and talking to these guys about being able to catch out of the backfield.
Yeah, that would be nice. So hopefully these guys will develop and will not only see significant time, but make real contributions.
Yeah, and the Jets made some real strides in the draft, and I got to give them a lot of credit. They've been sitting in the cellar, the AFC East, for a few years now, and they finally had enough draft picks, and they actually made the moves to trades or whatever to get up and get their guys, and they have some great picks. And I'm not scared yet for this coming year, but if they keep picking players like that, I think Miami and New England better be a little worried, and the Bills eventually will need to be a little worried.
Well, George, the Jets are like that proverbial clock. It is right twice a day.
Yeah.
They'll find a way to screw it up.
No, I don't know. I got more confidence in their coaching staff than certainly the last few. I mean, how many coaches did the Bills go through till we ended up with
please, let's not go through that.
And they weren't bad coaches. They certainly seemed to.
They weren't bad people. Well, yeah, you know what? Maybe whether
had success in the NFL after they left Buffalo. So maybe there were problems because Ralph Wilson wanted to sell the team, and maybe there were dollars being held back. You don't know.
I've heard rumors about, especially with. I've heard rumors about not being interested, not being willing to pay assistant coaches what it would cost to get some of the better ones in. So you're rounding out your coaching roster with guys who are just trying to stay current, trying to stay in the league.
Right.
As opposed to trying to seek out the best ones or the most innovative ones or the best developer ones. So we heard those under Ralph Wilson for a long time. Things turned around in the late 80s. You got Polian in here, and that really made a difference.
Oh, that made a huge difference.
And that made a difference. And I think the income went up with the ticket sales, and they were able to bring in some better coaches. And of course, players make all the difference.
Bill Polian was a genius at contracts and drafting the right players, and Marv Levy was just the culture that he created in Buffalo, and the coaches that he had with him were just the right for that time with those players.
Well, hopefully the culture that our coach now is trying to, has been instituting, hopefully that will continue with these new guys.
Well,
That,
if it's,
you know,
yeah, if James Cook is any indication, he said he loves Buffalo just for those reasons. And so, you know, let's face it, you're going to Buffalo, New York. We're both from Rochester. We know what the heck that means. That means long and cold winters, dreary outlooks in business and labor, and it's not the greatest place. And I don't mean Buffalo, but let's say upstate New York. It's not the greatest place to go if you're looking for career advancement or schooling or any of that kind of stuff. But the players now want to come there because they're treated well, they're respected.
Considered a good organization.
Yeah, it's a good organization that allows them to be themselves. And I mean, come on, that's great. How would you like to get a job where you feel like, oh my God, these people are going to let me be me, and they really like that they're getting me, and
well,
they're willing to help me improve. And
in this environment, I can excel.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Great teams, and by teams I mean like work groups.
Mm-hmm.
Great ones indoctrinate new people very quickly and get them up to speed. Yeah. And that really helps the new hire. Feel a part of the team and feel like they're contributing very quickly. You know, poor teams, sometimes a new hire will never feel like they're fully up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say?
Some areas or some teams you go to, they not only want a winner, they expect a winner. You see that now in New England, as they're now starting to decline some from when, I mean, they won 6 Super Bowls, and now the fan base and the ownership there are starting to butt heads, and they want their winner back. And you got fans for the Buffalo Bills who have stood behind them for decades and decades.
Right.
And even when they went through that long stretch of not making the playoffs, they still had their fans. They still loved their players.
Right.
You know what I mean? And yes, they want a winner. Yes, they want a Super Bowl there. I mean, they want to win a Super Bowl, and all that stuff is great. And do you see anybody saying, "Oh, this team stinks. They can't win the big one"? How many teams have you heard that in the past? Like, oh, Peyton Manning, he can't win the big one. He can't beat New England. Or this coach, he can't win the big one. Again, you know, that's not the Bills fans. It's not the culture up there, and it's like I think that this young running back was describing, is a great environment, and they're going to allow him to excel and be happy in his work, and allow him to come to his full
realize his potential.
His potential. So that's good. That's wonderful. And hopefully then that allows this new linebacker the same thing, and we're going to learn more about him. And he's a 3rd round pick. They didn't pick him for nothing. They picked him for a reason. And I don't think they picked him just for special teams. So they see something they like. We just don't know what that is yet, but I'm going to give them time to let us know what that is.
All right. Sounds good. George, it was great talking to you. Get some rest. Get ready for tomorrow. We got a long day of draft coverage tomorrow. Starts at, I think, 11 o'clock your time.
Yeah, and then we could do another one later on, and whenever you want to, and we could recap the whole thing. But so far, I think it's a great start.
Yeah, so far so good. All right.
See you later.
See you later.
Goodbye, Buffalo brother.
Bye.